The Vasad from HE Gamers here with another quick tutorial on the Modular Customization System 9. So in this version, we're going to go over all of the changes that have occurred from the last video. It's been a while since we've made a video, and I've always kind of referenced the old one and said, look, nothing's really changed. The layout's changed a little bit, but that's not really true anymore. So much has changed from the original modular system that we really kind of need a new video. And so today we're going to go over just the brief things to talk about the big changes that have occurred. And one of the first changes that you're going to see is in the prepare character model here, you can see that we've got two additional settings that were never here before, and that's the modular character and modular morphs. And this is a very quick way for you to bring in any character into the scene and quickly change it into a modular character. So right now what we've got is this character that is set up. And she has nothing modular on her. In fact, she's got no parts at all. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to select her and just say that we want to make her a modular character. We're going to make a modular morph, and we're going to override the parameters from the source, and then say get selected, and then we're going to click prepare. And it's done the very worst of the worst, which is create it and then put the collider in the wrong position. This is absolutely easy to fix, and you'll want to do this for any of your characters anyways. So you'll want to go ahead and then select your character controller and then change your X and Z to 0, and then change your Y to probably 0.9, because most characters are not actually 2 meters, they're 1.8 meters high. And so you can see that at 1.8 meters and 0.9, we've got her at the proper height, but you'll notice that she's also a little too wide. She's not a radius of 5, she's a radius of 0.35 probably. 3.5 is still a little wide. Okay, so 0.3. So when our arms are down, her arms will be right about here, and we want to make sure that she is within the capsule collider for that. So this is a properly configured character for the prepare character model. So those are the changes for Modular 9, is provide these functionalities here. And then we'll go over to the modular character itself. So at this point, we no longer need any of the Atavism settings. So if you have a modular customization settings on your system, then you no longer need that. That is not a requirement to have any of the system. And you'll notice it no longer works in this because I have broken it on purpose so that you cannot use this. So you'll just go ahead and remove this customization setting. It's no longer needed. So expand the customization manager, and we'll talk about the very first things across the top. Gender is, across the top here. General, selection and replacement, skinned, morphs, default, directories, materials, color options, default colors, and color selections. And each one of these tabs corresponds to a specific section of the modular for very specific purposes. And we'll go over each one of those. The general tab is the basic settings that you'll need for every character, and that is going to be the gender, whether this is a male or female. Default faith name, this is something I added and never extended. It provides a faith section. So if you want to add faith to your characters at the character selection, this is where you would have the faith saved into your character, and then you could use it in the game later on. The main character slots are the items that are associated with the stuff that is inside of the Atavism editor. So inside of your editor, once you create a slot for a particular character, then you will have that slot that's available inside of the system. So you can go here, go to items, and then slots, and then you'll see these slots that are here. These slots are the ones that are actually associated with this. And this is actually back from the day when the modular system had a couple of different settings and tried to correspond slots and body parts. So what we've done is try to eliminate that. And so if you have a slot, you need to set that slot correspondingly to this. So, and you can see here we've got a head slot, you need to have a head slot. You cannot have hand and everything. You have to have a slot that corresponds with the item that you have here. It does not need to be the same name, but it just needs to correspond with something here. A couple of the slots are very specific for their usage. Do not ever use a torso slot for anything other than either a torso or an entire body. And we'll go, the reason for this is the body, the system uses the body as a replacement item later on. And so if you select a torso slot as anything else, then other than a torso or an entire body, then it will not work properly. All of the other slots other than head can be used for any other purpose that you want. There is no other requirement for them at all. So the two slots that you have to worry about are your head slot and your torso slot. So down here are your optional slots. These are your head covering for any head, like hats and things, a beard, your eyebrow, your eyes, your mouth slots. So these are if your model has those slots and you want to be able to provide additional replacements for those. Senti Kids is a good one for the mouth, or some of the mesh tint is good for the mouths because they have mouth slots. And so you could utilize a mouth and swap the mouths out for that purpose. Down below, these are the internal, whether these items are internal to the character or external. And what do I mean by that? This is an often asked question. And what do I mean by internal to the model or external? So if you go over to your model, Senti is a character that has models that are external, and those are the ones that are inside of the Polygon Fantasy Heroes. And you'll see if you go into the models, you'll go to those static parts. So these are external models. And they're also internal models because the models are attached to the mesh itself. So if you open the modular character, you'll see that the modular character has the mesh that's attached to it inside of the system, and all of the meshes are attached. So these are internal parts. These parts, where they are static, these are external parts. So if your meshes are external to your part, to your character, and you have to load them onto your character, then they are considered external meshes. If they are part of your mesh and they are internal to the mesh and are all part of the mesh itself here, then they are internal models. And that is the designation between those two slots here. So whether they are internal models or external models. And this is really important because this is how the system loads them and spawns them into the scene. It's important to make sure that it is selected. Maybe in the future we'll try to figure this out and determine how to do that, but this is the process at this current time. The selection tab is for the character selection screen. So these are all the things that will appear within the sliders on the character selection screen. So when you create your character and you have the different head models, these are the head models that will be utilized for that. And these can either be internal or external. It doesn't matter. It will handle the systems properly. And you just need to make sure that it is set up. So in this situation, you would just drag in an object into the scene, either from the character or from the project path. And then as you click play and are at the character selection screen, your head, your torso, your upper, and all of those should automatically appear in the locations within those drop downs. You may have to add that into your character selection screen, and we'll go ahead and go over that in a little bit. Uh, the replacement screen, this is for model swapping. And so this is if you're doing things like the Senti characters and you want to swap from one character to a different character, this would allow you to swap the characters in between those different items. And you can either do a head, a torso, individuals, or a full replacement item. And you would create a replacement item simply by dragging in and the replacement item, and you would go over and create it through the system into a resources folder. Uh, so we'll go over here, we'll create a resources folder. And then in here, you would create a HN Gamers modular replacement item. And this is how you would do this. And you would say there's your foam replacement, there's your torso replacement, and you can do individual replacement items for the torsos, for the head, for whatever, and target specific things. So if you just want to replace the hips, then you could target that and it would go ahead and replace that item. You could put it into the full replacement and it would target the item. To So then on the skinned uh, system, this is the newest stuff, and this is what used to be called the enhance support. And this is no longer for enhance. This is now for any system that has modular swapping of skins that you want to do. You would first need to come in here and select this object. You can, if you want, select these. You do not have to. This is if you want to disable these objects and then re-enable them. If you don't want to disable your torsos and you just want to have the swapping for character equipment, then you do not need to have any of this set up. The other thing that you do need to have set up for this is to go over onto a equipment display. And on the equipment display for a character, what you're going to do is you're going to set it up. And at the very bottom, you're going to check mark this Enable Boned Modular Equipment. That's this little check mark here. And then what you're going to do is you're going to drag in your gear that you want to swap out into this area. So you can see here I've got something set up. And in this, I've got this in this character, and you can see that I've got a couple of different tops, items, and stuff. And this is out of Character Creator 4. This is the armor bottoms, and it is the mage set that is available for free, I believe. And then once you have it, you can follow the previous videos that I have where I have explained on how to export these items out so that you can utilize the process in the next video where we'll go over how to actually skin your items. But this system here, no, 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 cancel that. Go back to our equipment display. This is the process to load your gear. Again, you need to have your skin mesh needs to be selected here so that you can enable it. If you want to have your skinned items as different replaceables, so then you would need to drag in the appropriate items into this out of the default torso and into the appropriate, like one of these is the body, so this would be the default torso since this is the full body. And you would have to break it up into the individuals to use anything more than that. You could break the hands down if you wanted and bring them in here. And then if you swap it out, that is how it swaps out. Then on the equipment display, you also need this check mark here to enable the boned modular equipment in the display. That will then retarget this item and mount it to the character properly. So then on the morph shapes, We'll go into the next one. Morph shapes is an additional thing that was added in 9. This is the old Infinity PBR support, and it was only for Infinity PBR. And we had a series of issues because Infinity PBR has changed the scripts throughout the years, and so it was always difficult to say, oh, which one are you using? Are you using the default that came with Atavism, or are you using the updated stuff that he has released recently? And if so, use this one, or if or use this one for the old stuff. So rather than do that, or try to install both and support both, I've rewritten the entire system, and now morph shapes are available to the entire system. And rather than importing a add-on, they're default in the system. Morph shapes are very simple to use as part of the original system. Remember, we brought up the prepare character for atavism, or prepare character model. Here we were able to add a modular morphs, and when we create the modular morphs, it adds this morph system in here. So this is a second thing. You need a morph shapes manager script on your character to be able to support the morph shapes that we have. If you do not have this, it just simply won't work. Nothing will work. Nothing will be there. Once you drag it onto your character, all you need to do is click this initialize morph shapes. If there are morph shapes in the character, and indeed, even if there are not morph shapes on the character, it will go through each and every single one of these, the meshes on the character, and then load up the mesh. If there are morphs on that mesh, it will add them and you will see them here. If there are not morphs on the mesh, you will not see anything and it will just be listed as 0. So you can see that none of these characters have any morphs on this. So I'll bring in a character that actually does have morphs, which is my elf female here, and I'll bring her into the scene, and then I will, she's naked, so I'll just leave her there, and we'll just, so she's hidden, and I will do the same process here. We'll get selected from her, and then we're going to leave her as there. We'll prepare it, and the only thing I'll show you here is just the morph system here. So you can see that we've got the morph here, and if I click initialize on her, she has all of the morph shapes that are up here, and you can see that there's some on the eye, the teeth, the tongue, and the body. There's 148 that have appeared on the body itself, and so the body is the mesh, and the 148 morph values are the items that are actually morphed. When you open this, you're going to see a couple of different selections in here. These are values that are associated with the morph systems themselves and have been in the um, and have been loaded into the system so that you can utilize them. Down here, what you're going to see is whether this is controlled by an other shape and what that shape is. And you can see that there is no controlled shapes for most of them. You can add controlled shapes so that they are attached if you really want. If there isn't a controlled shape, it should load it in and have it appear here. What you're really looking for is this selection right here in the middle as these two options. Is this visible? And is this a head item? Those two options control the morph shapes visibility on the character creation panel. So if you have this selected as is visible, then we're going to display it on the character panel. If it's not, we're not going to show it. So right now there's 148 sliders that will be on the character panel. So you will have to go through here and decide which one of these shapes are the most important for you. If they all are, leave them all on. And you can name the object right here. This is the actual, this is the name of the object. Do not change this, sorry. It's the display name of the object. So this would be the name of the object that you want to be displayed on the character panel. So this would be mouth open if you wanted that to be displayed on the panel. And then you could see that this is a head item, so that we want to make sure that it's pushed to the head panel and not the body panel. So this provides us the functionality of removing or hiding items that are blend shapes from our character panel, creating the shapes for display, and switching them between the body panel and the head panel. If it's a negative shape, we're automatically not going to hide it or to display it. So if you do see anything that is in negative here, it should say that. And I believe down here we should see the the minus suffix. So this suffix, if you wanted to remove the down, you could put the suffix of down in there and it would remove the downs automatically. So that is what the suffix and the prefix are used for. This is just a primary prefix. You can leave these alone, ignore that. Global multiplier allows you to modify whether you're going to allow it go to 0 to 1, and then um, you can save these blend shapes that are currently on there. And you can see that it's going to save it to the character and it's going to say the elf blend shapes in the resources folder. So assets, resources, elf female blend shapes. And then so what you would do is you'd go to this assets, resources, blend shapes. And then these are all the blend shapes that are associated with the character as it sits currently in the prefab scene. So this, as it sits here, um, these are the blend shape values that are there. So if you wanted to do some presets, what you would do is you would create your presets here in the scene, and then once you have them, you would save them, click save. That would allow you to have a preset and utilize that within the presets here. And this is where the presets go in. So that preset that I just created would then go into this location. And then this becomes a slider within the scene and a character selection. And you can then have some preset blend shapes that are on your characters instead of allowing the players themselves adjust the characters. Default parts. This is very, very important and seems to be skipped over quite a bit. What we're going to do is talk about this so that everybody understands why this is so important. These are the default parts for your character. And these are the things that appear in the scene when there's nothing on the body and you have no gear on the body. And in my opinion, I take the Rust approach. If you've ever played Rust or any game where that's Rust, it's like you come into the world naked or with as little clothing as possible that allows the player to design their system. If you're going to have predefined skins and things like that, that's one alternative. This is where you're allowing the characters to, or the players to be designed completely from the ground up. You want them to be as naked as possible. Maybe some underwear to eliminate any real nakedness of players coming in. But at this point, what you're doing is you're creating that first visual display that the character's always going to have when they're running around the game. If they take their gear off, it's always going to have that. If you take your um, if you put on a gear on, it will remove these default items or hide them. So the system is designed to turn off or hide the geared items, the default items when you add a geared item, or hide them during the selection on the equipment display. And this is to make sure that you have not as many meshes on the scene and not as many triangles and uh, things on the scene so that we're not having to render everything on the scene within our graphics engine. That leads to slowdowns within our engine. If we don't have to display it, why display it? So each one of these, and they're very specific in this, you have to utilize the head and torso. And I talked about this previously with the selection system. The head and the torso system are the two that are required to utilize exactly what they talk about, a head or a torso. Do not use anything else in the head or torso than head or torso or for full body for the torso. The system utilizes the torso to utilize to create either the torso or in situations where you have a full skin that is the body, it uses the torso for the body. We don't have just a body location, so we use the torso specifically for that purpose. And this provides us a quick and easy way in the system to just say, hey, the torso, is there hands? Nope. Oh, then we're using just a full body mesh. We're going to swap that out. And there's things in the back end that are tied to the torso being used for just a torso mesh or a full body mesh. That is the most important aspect. Everything else, except for the face, can be utilized for anything you want. So if you have a full body and you have capes or wings or things like that, and you want to utilize wings and have those appear on your character and have those as selectables, then you can use any one of them: feet, lower legs, hips, hands, lower arms, upper arms, as a replacement or alternative selection. Those are just suggestive names for the like the individual items, which will provide that functionality. And it looks like, it says default female parts here. So when we go over to the general, you'll see it says female. If we switch it to male, and then we go back to the default parts, it'll say male default parts. So there is a toggle between those. So if you have set your character up and you're like, oh no, all my parts are gone, I set them up. Did you toggle your character between male and female? If so, then that's where your parts are. They're sitting within those individual parts, and you can see, like if we added some parts here, they would appear in these locations. So down here, these are not selectable because we don't quite know whether or not these are individual items or a list of items. This allows you to change in like lists of items. These are just individual items. So this, if you put in like eyes or mouth, then it would just be that. Maybe the next version will change this to be a list of items as well. So that way, if you have multiple items in your mouth, you can disable those as well. Directories, this is not really used anymore and will probably go away in the next version. This is a leaveover from the old days of when this was the Cinti modular, and we don't provide the meshes, we don't provide any of the stuff anymore, prefabs, because all of that stuff is broken from Atavism X.2 and 3 to X.4 when they switched over to the new equipment displays. None of this really works anymore, and so there's no reason to provide it. We'll probably eliminate this or replace it with something else. And the next couple of versions. This is where, again, all of your files used to sit, and when we provided you the prefabs for Cinti, it would all of the Cinti items would be underneath these locations for the hair, beard, and eyebrows. And now my scripts handle all of that and provide that system for us. So the materials tab provides us, and this is likely to change in the next couple of versions because currently what we're doing with the materials isn't the best approach. So in order to enable the color changing, and if you come over here to the system and you enable the color changing on the color options, and you're going to run into a couple of issues. This creates a material for every single player that comes into the scene and every single mesh that is on the character, because it's not instanced and it is a brand new internal mesh that's associated with the character. This isn't the best for memory usage and can quickly overwhelm your video card displays and your displays on your mobile devices if you are not careful. So you have to use this sparingly and make sure that you're not throwing too many things in and allowing the different hair colors, enable multiple. This is really bad. Enable multiple character colors. provides like every single body part in there could then have a potential different color. So since the modular supports hands, uppers, lowers on legs and arms and torsos and heads, then those potentially could lead to each one of those having a brand new material that is attached to it. And so now you've got 5 players in there, and each one has a instanced material or non-instanced material on those players for each one of those body parts, and your video card has to render and hold each one of those. So we want to make sure that in the next version, we're going to start leaning on some Unity functions to try to eliminate that and use some material modularity instead of creating instanced materials for each item. Other than that, what you do with this tab is you drag in your character. So for our Mina example here that we have used for all of our stuff, we have several character things that are on here. I'm going to lock this and so I can see it. But no, I'm not going to lock that. This character has on her hands, she has a Mina body, and in the Mina body, you can see that there is this material, and she has these eyes and hair, and she has a head, lashes, teeth, and some censored materials. So the censored materials are where her breasts are and any other materials that might not want to be shown. So what you would do with this is you would take the body and you would drag this into this body, drag it into the body mat here. You would drag the head into the head mat. And in the skin materials to sync, anything else that you want to have synchronize with this, whether that's the teeth, and that is, I don't know if we want to have anything else, maybe the sensor can stay the same. Those all need to be dragged into the materials to sync. And you have the skin materials to sync and hair materials to sync. So hair materials, we're going to drag our hair mat in. And we're just going to actually select beige for this. And then we're going to say drag our lashes into hair mats to sync, our tears into hair meshes to sync. And that is it. Everything else we're going to leave alone. We're going to grab our blue eyes. And does she have a mouth? We're going to drag her teeth into the mouth map because she does have a mouth. So down here, you can see that we have all of these additional options. So if you wanted to have, and she did have, multiple materials, then you would drag these additional materials, including the original, into the body mat list. What this would do is on the selection, you would now have a slider for the body mats. And this would allow you to slide between and select the materials and change the materials between the different ones that are in there, and it would increment the materials. The head mat list needs to replicate the body mat. So if your body mats are body mat 1, 2, 3, 4, your head mats should match that 1, 2, 3, 4. If you put them out of sequence, 1, 2, 4, 3, or however they're named in different sequences, then you will have an out of sequence head as they change. It will automatically select the next head. So if you have 0 selected here, select 0 out of this list. The hair mat list, eye mat list, and mouth mat list replicates the same process, but does not have a synchronization with anything. So if you synchronize or if you add the hair in there, you notice we cannot change any of the lashes or tears. I don't have that. It's a lot of effort to put those in, so it might be in one of the next future versions, but I would prefer not to have that available in there if not needed. So Um, Back to the skin materials to sync and the hair materials to sync. Skin materials to sync needs to be any material that is there. So if you have a hand, a torso, legs, you want all of those to be within here. What you don't want is the original body mat that is here to be in this list at all. If this is in here, it will break the system and it won't understand what to do because it gets in a loop because you're trying to set the values of these items to the value of this item here, and this item is here, and it gets in a loop going, I'm trying to set the value and I don't know what I'm trying to do because it's the values equal. So it sorts of freaks out. Same thing with the hair materials to sync. Do not bring this hair mat into here. This hair mat and can go into this hair mat list, but don't bring it down into the hair mats to sync. Again, that hair mats to sync is only to, and the skin materials to sync is only for additional items that are attached to the body that you want to synchronize with the original. The color tabs allow different hair colors. This allows you to uh, colorize the eyebrows, mustache, beard, hair, eyelashes, all separately. I think eyelashes and eyebrows are tied together in the sliders. Uh, Back to the conversation we had regarding the materials and how it will expand upon the list. So if you utilize this, then each one of those now has its own instanced material and will then increase the memory usage of your video card exponentially. This direct set hair color, direct set eye color, and direct set skin color is if your material or your shader does not provide direct access to um, the colors. So like the standard material, this is a direct access for the standard materials. So if your material is using the standard shader, then you would utilize these because it has a underscore color for each one of these values. And so this is how the shader is actually associated. You can see down here that we have exposed some color names, and these are the names that we target internally if we're not using these. So these direct set, if you set that, then it ignores anything down here and use as underscore color. But if you uncheck this and your shader does support these naming conventions, then you can target these specific colors and things within that shader, and the Atavism system will color that item within there. The use beard color for color 2. This is for hair color, and this is actually for things like Infinity PBR where they have two colors within the hairs. And instead of using the beard color for coloring the beard, you can use it to retarget and color the highlights within the stuff within the shaders. Back to the enable multiple colors, character colors. This and this would be the worst between the two. And then if you want, which would then provide you uh, instance material for every single item, every single individual thing. So each one of these hands, hips, shoes, chest, full chest, arms, all of this would then break down and have a material attached to it. And all would be associated because we then enable multiple character colors. So anything that is not using the same body, so that like and she's lucky because all of her items use the same body, but any characters that don't would then break down and have those in there. So this completely disable instanced materials. Let's say you don't want colors, you don't want anything at all, and you're still getting stuff, and it's still colorizing stuff, and you're still getting the materials, and it's still creating instanced materials. Then that is what this here does. This is a instanced material item. The default colors tab is set up so that you can have a series of default colors for your character at the character selection screen. So what this system will do is once you go to the character selection screen, it will automatically set the value of the skin color material to this color. So if you're noticing that there is a tint to your shaders, come in here and turn it to white. And the default color for things should always be set to white. If your character is has a skin that is defaulted to white and is utilized to where you create the colors and you're not seeing the right color that you're looking for, then come in here and set it to the expected color so that you see it here. And this is your new color, that's your old color. And then you can adjust it on the color wheel here, or you can even adjust the alpha value of that that color. This does affect each one of the color spectrums down here, and each one of these is attached to the color options here. So you can see the color skin parameter here is color underscore skin. So that is attached to this default skin color. So back to this, if your shader utilizes this, then this color will affect your shader at the character selection screen, and you can utilize these. This is what I talk about in the old documentation, and the new documentation slightly covers this a little bit. The color selection tab, this is supposed to be a quick and easy way for you to uh, have a slider on your character selection screen of predefined colors that you want the character to utilize. If you do not want them to utilize the color picker, and you want them to use a color slider, then you will need to utilize this and provide a color here. And you can just come in here and add a color, and whatever color you want, you can select the picker and even select the skin if you want, and this person here, and this way you can, if you have colors already that you want predefined on a color palette, you can very easily select those items on the color palette. Each one of these supports that functionality, and you can then have that. To talk about this section here on the character, we're going to go ahead and very quickly go over the character selection screen and how to utilize that. So we'll go into the scenes, the character selection screen, and we'll open that scene as an additive scene. And then we'll go ahead and expand the canvas, the character creation, the character customizer, and then you're going to expand the body and click on the body panel. And so here you can see that on the modular character DNA panel, we have whether this is a head panel or a body panel. And this is a body panel. And you can see that we have a slider type of a torso. And in here we have all of our sliders down here. And down here we have a blend shape. Don't worry about blend shapes. Blend shapes are automatically added to the system, so don't add the blend shape to the system. It will add that automatically. But this is, you can see here that we've got a color definition. This is how you add your colors. So you come in here and select your color. And this is what would allow your color, and this is on the color picker or color wheel. If you notice right here in this, it says picker prefab. And this one says none. And if we go to the head one, this one says color prefab modular DNA color. So if you went into the character creation screen and you went to play this, when you selected the body, you would have a slider for your characters, and you would not have a DNA selector for the color because you do not have a picker prefab selected. When you select to the head body or the body panel or the head panel, you see a picker prefab here. To correct this issue, find the picker prefab, pull it into the body panel, cancel this picker, yeah, into that location, and now the DNA picker will be available instead of having a slider. If you do not want the slider and you want the picker, then you need to remove this picker prefab. That's it. And then once that's done, you can then utilize any of the items that are on your character here, and these color selections will then become available within this. No picker prefab provides functionality with these skin colors. Picker prefab provides colors utilizing the color panel. And that brings us to the end of this way longer than I expected tutorial and overview on all of the changes for the Modular 9 character customization system. This has been Lee Vasad from Ancient Gamers. Thank you very much for tuning in to this session, and I'll see you in the next session. Goodbye.